Greetings, geeks. This is Mike, and apologies in advance, especially for the audio listeners. This podcast is being done on a lake in a kayak. Why? Well, why not? If you can do a podcast on a lake in a kayak, you might as well, right? So this is one of those funny podcasts. You know, the ones where we can get together and Troy gets to try and edit a bunch of clips together and try and make something coherent. I did listen to Trevor's. He posted that on our Dropbox thing a couple days ago, so I have a few ideas so I can respond to some of the stuff he had to say. I guess the first thing is, let's talk about She-Hulk. And this is one I wasn't going to watch. The trailer triggered me enough. I was just going to step back and wait for comments. Sort of like Miss Marvel. I still haven't seen that one. Although it happened to be that I was awake last night. Trevor said he liked it and figured, what the heck, it'll give me something to talk about in a kayak. So first episode, She-Hulk. Wasn't that impressed. There was some fun stuff in it, but I didn't think it was well done. And the Disney, Marvel, Star Wars as well for that matter, they tend to start off fairly strong and then spiral into the depths of hell with how bad it gets. So considering this one wasn't that strong at the start, I'm a little bit concerned for the series. And let's break that down a little bit. First off, I wasn't impressed with the origin story for She-Hulk. And I actually went back and reread the Savage She-Hulk just to refresh my memory. But because I always knew it was a blood transfusion. So Bruce Banner has to save his cousin's life with a blood transfusion. And then she gets the Hulk gamma rays and then becomes She-Hulk. And in the original story, it was really good in the comic book. So the fact that his cousin is trying to do a court case with a bunch of really bad guys, you know, some gangster types, and they basically put a hit out on her. They gun her down. And in the comic books, Bruce Banner, he's still the Edward Norton Bruce Banner, you know, the one who's wandering, hiding from people. He's not a hero that helped defeat Thanos. No, he's a guy running from the law, and he's, I guess, looking for some legal advice. I think that's the sort of MacGuffin they put in there. And I think they could have done that in the series. You know, maybe Bruce Banner, like, obviously he's still the hero, but do it where it's a little bit incognito. Maybe he hears that his cousin's doing this really dangerous case, and being an Avenger, he's looking out for her safety. But they could have kept the story closer to the comic book in that part. I think it would be stronger, rather than a weird alien ship that lands on the road and they crash the car and he's got some inhibitor on his arm. It's like, it's a little contrived. No, source material's better. The training montage in Mexico, I'll have to admit that was kind of fun. Now, they did get into the whole MCU where the female's like, oh, so I'm better than you, right? I'm better than you. I can do everything better than you. And that was tiresome. I mean, the Hulk's been an Avenger. How many years has it been? 10, 15? I forget when all that started. When did Avengers come out? I don't have Google in front of me. It was a while ago. But he's been an Avenger for a while. He saved the world. Multiple times. And to have this goofy lawyer say, so I'm better than you, right? That was pretty weak. So I wish they got rid of all that crap. They could have done it well with a good story, but they didn't. The other thing that I didn't think was handled well was the breaking the fourth wall, talking to the camera. If you think in modern times, The two that were my favorite for that was The Office, the original one with Ricky Gervais, where he was basically being filmed in a documentary. So they would have the interview sequences, and every now and then the characters would look at the camera as if they were a person standing there watching. Genius. It's really good. And the other one was Modern Family. Modern Family handled that really well. Again, with the little interview sequences, and every now and then they'd look at the camera as if the camera was sitting there in their living room. Really well done. Unfortunately, She-Hulk, they didn't quite nail that. So, not really looking forward to the rest of the series. I'll maybe keep watching it for the Geeking Off The Page, just to have something to comment on. But for now, I think that's all I have to say about that. And there's Sea-Deuce driving beside me, trying to ruin my podcast. Okay, let's talk about Alone. This is a hard one to talk about because Trevor's 2 seasons behind me, and I don't want to give too many spoilers. I thought it was funny him talking about the people who tap out first day. That's a thing the family's been talking about the whole way through. There's a couple seasons where the guy's like, yeah, the bear's gonna be scared of me. Then he sees the bear and runs away, calls out, taps out first day he's even on the island. I don't even think he spent the night. So there's a lot of that. The dual survivor one with the teams, which is one Trevor was talking about here. There's a bunch of that on the way for the hike, and it's amazing how many times it was the base camp people that got injured and not the people that had to do the hard work of hiking. One sort of side note, Trevor mentioned the Bard brothers, and they became heroes of ours in our family. It was one thing with me and the boys. It became an inside joke where we're just walking around, somebody says something, and they go, yeah! And they go, yeah! So for the last few weeks, yeah, the kitchen family's been doing that. It's super fun, super hilarious. It's funny when you have those inside jokes. And then the one we've added to that is the Darth Vader no. So if everybody wants to do something, yeah! Then when people don't, no! So that's a little fun thing with the kitchen family. So try not to give too many spoilers. The next 2 seasons of Alone get really good. So the next one's the redemption arc. That's season 5. And that one's so much fun because you get to see people come back. It's kind of like Empire Strikes Back. So you know the characters, it's a different situation, and you wonder how things are going to work. And again, without giving too many spoilers, there's certain things where people have honed their skills from the previous season. But sometimes it doesn't go so well. There's one contestant that realized they weren't good at fishing, and they lasted a long time in the previous season. And in this one, I think it's in day 3, they go out because they get fish hooked in their hand and they can't get it out. There's some contestants where they fail from the same thing that they did before. So the reason they tapped out, they do the exact same thing this time. And there's some contestants that their redemption was they didn't push themselves to their breaking point, where when they had to tap out before, they were pushed to their breaking point and they were either pulled out or they had a mental breakdown or something happened. And in this one, it's them coming to the realization that they're going to go out with dignity. They're not going to take it to the point where they collapse. And let's just say I'm really happy with the season 5 winner. I'll leave it at that. Season 6 of Alone is the Arctic. And this is a crazy one. And they spoil a lot in the intros. You see people come back with big game, which has never happened previously. And it's neat to see people catch real meat and big animals. But the amount of times people got sick, whether it's food poisoning or parasites, again, I'm only a couple I'm a couple episodes into this season. And there's a lot of crazy stuff already happening. That's one of the things that's really fun with the series Alone. It's because you don't know what's going to happen. And you get to see some survival skills. You get to see people who think, oh, I've got this. and they collapse, and other people who somehow manage to hang in there. Some of it's luck, some of it's skill, and it's, again, back to the redemption arc. It's interesting to see how that changes. People who you thought would be really strong don't pull it off. Of course, there's some you think will be strong, and they are. I think that's all I can say without spoilers. But it has been a great show, and if you haven't been watching it, and you're interested in survivalism, and you're interested in that kind of game show competition, if you're interested in watching people starve, it's a great show. Another thing Trevor brought up, top 10. I have some thoughts on that too. And I'll echo a lot of what Trevor said in his bit. It is interesting to see the things that made the top 10 and the reasons why. I did a lot of soul searching while coming up with this list. I like to do that. And every single thing did affect me in a profound way. I've noticed a lot of my things have been really strong characters, as in the case of something like True Romance, where it's just a crime story, but every single character is strong. I've seen it with the genres. So I'm definitely heavy into the science fiction, cyberpunk genre. Like, that's very strong on my list. I'm into the psychological thrillers, the things like Fight Club. And again, strong characters in that one as well. But those twists, those story twists, things that you didn't think of. Also the philosophical elements. You get that in The Matrix, you get that in True Romance, you get that in Fight Club. Like, all those stories have that really strong. I'm into the technology. You see that in things like Roger Rabbit and the animation. And again, really strong characters in that one too. Another thing is when a story doesn't have any mistakes. The ones on my list are mostly ones, I would say, where there's nothing I would change. There's a lot of movies that didn't make the list because there were things I would change. Like, I didn't think it was a perfect movie. In fact, that's one of the reasons why Akira got bumped down to my number 11 spot. Because the story didn't really finish. It should have been at least 2 more movies after that. And it's been interesting to see what the other guys have to say about the top 10 as well. It's very similar things where it's where they were in life, what the experience was like, what that gave them, how that helped build their personality. Did it have giant robots? All that kind of stuff. So I have enjoyed that segment, and I'm curious to see how it finishes. I'm pretty sure what a lot of the last movies will be, but hey, who knows? We'll see. One last thing to talk about is there's a YouTuber named Young Ripa. His real name's Eric July. At least I think that's his real name. And he's been doing a whole lot of really great commentary on comics and woke casting and diversity and all that kind of stuff. Very much in line with the way that I think, which is why I'm kind of drawn to it. Anyway, he had this little clip, and I hope Troy can put it in here.
Tokenization is a effort that is done purposely by Hollywood. I've told y'all many times before, Hollywood does not hire anybody or do open casting for roles. That's not how it works. Even in a open casting, there's going to always be parameters that are going to be set for the people that they want in that role, right? So if they'll say, hey, they're looking for someone around this height or roughly this height. Let me get that going back. Let's say roughly this height, race or whatever. And not to say that every single role that they feel like does the race thing as far as saying that be what they are looking for. However, they have no problem doing that, especially with the boxes that they're looking to check. They can't, I don't know if you guys have seen some of these even awards that a lot of these guys are eligible for. You can't be eligible for those awards unless you have X amount of people that look a certain way or a certain gender or a certain sexuality that are working for your deal. So even more so than before, Hollywood is in the business of checking boxes. That's just how it is that they operate. And anything else or saying anything else aside from that is a straight up gaslight. It's a gaslight, and there's no sense in like pretending otherwise. Let me pull this up real quick because I have a tweet that I'm going to show you guys that really shows exactly what it is that I'm speaking about. But I just want you to keep that in mind for those of you that say, hey, I like this actor. I like this actress. That's irrelevant. This whole best person for the job has nothing to do with that, and they don't get hired based upon that, especially when you see folks that are already created, characters that we've already seen. They're in comic books, they're in other visual media and mediums, whatever, they're very descriptive mediums or whatever. We've seen that. So if there is some like big change, you best believe Hollywood does it purposefully. They do not do it without that purpose, okay? With that being said, the folks that weirdos have been, like weirdos in Hollywood that have catered to weirdos on like Twitter and TikTok, these folks only like this stuff out of spite. I told y'all they do this stuff out of spite. These folks aren't generally supportive of a lot of this work. You've seen a lot of some material is like hit and miss with them because it's a very flaky audience, right? They'll come out in droves to support something, and then other things are dead on arrival, and they don't come out and get support. Though they have all these stand counts that are based upon this. Birds of Prey is an example of this. Got tokenized Black Canary in that. And they, by the way, that was a purposeful casting. I don't know if you guys remember, we covered the casting call for that, and they specifically were looking for a biracial person to play that role. Nonetheless, you have that as an example where people don't come out and support it of it in droves like you expect them to because they're not really paying customers. They like this stuff because of who it makes angry, period. This has almost 70,000 likes. I don't know how many of those actually real people, considering that this person doesn't even have that many followers. Last time I checked, yeah, it only have 290 followers. Man, come on, bro. There's a lot of, I want to see the bot data for this company, but I can for sure believe that there's a lot of stupid people that create stan accounts and all that stuff as well. I don't care how much you like this actor. It's a waste of a role if you're going to have him play Professor X. However, he's taking this picture and he says, white folks would riot. Please let this happen. So it's essentially makes white people mad. Therefore, this should be a thing. They do this stuff because they know it gets on the folks' skins. This is why I'm telling y'all to just leave it, just leave it alone. Like crack smokers control it, and it's crack smokers that they are appealing to. Spiteful folks that only like this stuff because of who they know don't like it. That's it. That's it. And that's cool. You know, if that's what they're going to have, they're going to have it. So folks, of course, going to run with this lie. Well, Civil Rights Act, it was based on Civil Rights era, and that's what the X-Men were based on. Malcolm X is supposed to be Malcolm X is supposed to be Magneto, and Professor X is supposed to be Martin Luther King Jr. That is one of the biggest lies in comics. I've debunked that top to bottom using Stan Lee's own fucking words. You can go watch my old videos. I have a video titled like X-Men and the Social Justice Myth. It is a complete lie that Stan Lee created them to be depictions of, let's say, Professor X and Malcolm X. That is not true. He's explicitly stated that he never did that. He's never created X-Men to fight social justice or anything or racial injustice. He never did that. That was a lie that started to gain ground when the X-Men X-Men movie started to come out. This is why there's no coverage or anything of Stan Lee making that for 40 fucking years, making that connection between those characters. That never was a thing until, again, those movies basically came out. And even so, Magneto, for 20 years, basically, Magneto was just an evil villain. That's it. He was a supremacist in that sense. If you want to say that was what Malcolm X was, then you saying some fucked up things about Malcolm X if you consider what Magneto was. That whole retcon of him even having the connection to Nazi Germany was exactly that. It was a retcon. That happened during Claremont's era. That was not Stan Lee's depiction of the X-Men. That was Claremont's era. That was in the 80s. That means that there was no connection there for what, almost 20 years? That was a retcon. A lot of people don't know that was a retcon. That did not happen before. nonetheless, it's a waste of a decent actor that y'all may like to put him in a role and get in the sloppy seconds of some white character. But let them have it. They're going to do that probably anyway, so just let them do it. And laugh at them, make fun of them. And then we just show them how exactly to do that, because apparently creating original characters is just so fucking difficult. These guys suck, man. But on a serious note, they like this stuff out of spite. They don't actually like this stuff. But that's what Hollywood is appealing to, so let them appeal to and let them run themselves in the ground.
And the clip is about woke casting and gender swapping and race swapping. And the way he phrased it was so good. That why would you want sloppy seconds from... Let me try that again. The way he phrased that was, why would you want sloppy seconds from some white actor? Why wouldn't you want to have your own character? And how hard is it to create a character, a new character that fits the thing you're trying to write? Like, why do you have to go back to the back catalog and take a whole bunch of things and change it? Is it out of spite? I have a suspicion that they're trying to mess with history. Just as a way, like, this inclusion seems like it's trying to whitewash, well, not whitewash, rainbow wash? Let's say rainbow wash. Rainbow wash stories and history and culture. So it's just this weird melting pot of nothingness. Whereas when you can actually tap into history, and again, as young Ripa said, if you take an African story, like an ancient African thing, you want that in there. You don't need to diversify that. No, keep it what it is. There's something very true about that. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I've been harping on that for a long time now. And I thought this was a different point of view that I thought was really well done and thought it was worth sharing. So that's all I have to say about that. I'm curious if the other guys have any opinions. Well, I think that's all I have to say for this one. Hopefully this person's radio is not too loud. We'll see if the speaker picks it up. Otherwise there might be some background music through the whole thing.
This is Off the Cuff with Mike Kitchen.
Please be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review. You can find us at our social medias through Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Search for Planet Geek Productions. On Instagram and Twitter, Planet Geek Pod. Or you can send us an email at planetgeekpod@gmail.com. So until next bad time, same spider channel, may the force be with you, and thanks for tuning in.